All right, we've talked about your achieving self, and we've talked about how your self categories can sometimes get in the way and how you can just let those go to become more of who you want to be. Now we're going to talk about another aspect of yourself, and it's how you talk to yourself. Now, people often talk very harshly to themselves. So much so that if you were to take that internal voice out of the person and make them into a separate person, and let's say you were to overhear that conversation, that critical advice would be going, "What's wrong with you? You're so stupid, you're so incompetent, you're not good enough." If people walking by would overhear what you were saying to yourself, they'd probably stop and intercede and say, "Stop talking that way to them." So it's really interesting that we talk this harshly to ourselves. So one of the things we hope that people will learn as part of mental fitness training is to learn how to have a more patient and understanding, compassionate stance towards themselves. Now, this sounds like the easiest thing in the world, right? I mean, if you have a dog, you know that it's very easy to help them to be kind to themselves. You give them some food, a nice place to stay, they'll treat themselves well. But humans have this interesting issue that they're actually afraid of self-compassion, that they're afraid of being kind to themselves. They think that it's going to make them become sloppy or unmotivated. They think they need this harsh, abusive inner voice to motivate themselves. And if they don't have that inner voice beating them up all the time, they're just going to let themselves go. They're going to keep eating and eating and eating until there's no food left in the city. Then they're going to start doing drugs. And you can just imagine the scenario of everything falls apart if it isn't for this really harsh inner voice. And that is actually such a common belief that they have a scale called the fear of self-compassion. And people sometimes have a great deal of fear of being kind to themselves. And for some people, just relaxing, they're like, oh my God, I'm relaxed. Something bad's about to happen. It's like they're actually afraid of relaxing. So let's talk about self-compassion a little bit. And then in this course, you'll be able to do exercises and audio tapes that help you to kind of practice self-compassion. So is it true that self-compassion makes you weak? Well, the evidence is pretty clear on this point, that people who experience more patience and compassion towards themselves are actually happier. They are more likely to rebound from negative events. They're more likely to take negative feedback on board and use it. So all the evidence suggests that self-compassion is not only not a weakness, but it's a strength. And that's the data. But let me make it really clear. I'll give you a really obvious example, and this will show you why self-compassion is so important. It's very hard for people to be self-compassionate towards themselves. But I want you to imagine my 14-year-old daughter, Grace, struggling with math. And she wants to achieve, she's just beating herself up, saying she's stupid. And so let's say I'm her advisor. Now, do you think it would be helpful for me to say things like, "Come on, Grace, you're being so stupid. What's wrong with you? Try harder. What are you doing? You're just such an ignoramus. What's the use?" Do you honestly think that would be motivating? No, that wouldn't be motivating. Instead, I'd probably be patient. "It's okay, Grace, this is hard, and it doesn't matter that it's hard, but you're persisting, and that's fantastic." See, that's a more compassionate, patient voice. And intuitively that second voice would be better. So that. And so I hope that this opens the door up a little bit to your own inner voice and playing around with the idea that maybe being more kind and patient to yourself is a better way to motivate yourself to do well and to develop. And so you don't have to believe me. I know that people are very hesitant to be kind to themselves, but do some of the practices that we put in this course and experiment and see if being patient with yourself actually helps you. And if it doesn't, you can always go back to beating yourself up, although I hope you don't.